The rain hammered against the windows of the abandoned warehouse in Queens, each drop like a bullet against glass. Marcus Kane sat in the shadows, his fingers wrapped around a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. Across from him, Vincent Torino slid a manila envelope across the rusted metal table. "This is it," Vincent said, his voice carrying the weight of 20 years in organized crime. "Your last dance, Marcus. After this, you disappear. Your identity, clean slate, the whole 9 yards." Marcus didn't touch the envelope immediately. "And 15 years of killing for money." He'd learned that hesitation kept you alive. "What's the catch?" Vincent's laugh was bitter. "You always were too smart for your own good." He gestured to the envelope. "The target isn't our usual type." Marcus finally picked up the envelope, breaking the seal with practiced efficiency. Inside was a photograph of a woman with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, warm brown eyes, and a smile that seemed to light up the entire picture. She was beautiful. But it was more than that. There was something in her expression that spoke of genuine kindness. "Dr. Elena Vasquez," Vincent continued, "trauma counselor at Mount Sinai, specializes in helping victims of violent crimes." Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. "She's a shrink helping victims. And you want her dead? Why, she's been treating someone she shouldn't be. Someone who saw something they shouldn't have seen. Our client wants to make sure that particular therapy session never makes it to the witness stand." The photograph trembled slightly in Marcus's hands, though he couldn't say why. He'd killed politicians, rival mobsters, corrupt cops, people who knew the game they were playing. But this woman, she was saving people. People like the ones he'd been destroying his entire adult life. "The fee is double your usual rate," Vincent added, sensing his hesitation. "$2 million, enough to disappear completely." Marcus studied the photo again. Dr. Elena Vasquez was photographed outside what looked like a coffee shop, laughing at something off camera. She wore scrubs under a light jacket, and there was a small scar on her chin that somehow made her more beautiful, not less. "When?" he asked, his voice rougher than usual. 2 weeks. Make it look like a mugging gone wrong. The client wants it clean but believable." Marcus slipped the photo back into the envelope along with her address, schedule, and other details he'd need. This was supposed to be simple. Get in, complete the job, get out, disappear forever, start over somewhere sunny where no one knew his name or what he'd done. But as he walked out into the rain, the envelope tucked inside his leather jacket, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that nothing about Dr. Elena Vasquez was going to be simple. 3 days later, Marcus sat in his car across from Mount Sinai Hospital, watching the entrance. He'd been tracking Elena's routine, learning her patterns. She arrived at 7 a.m. sharp every day, left around 6 p.m., stopped for coffee at the same shop twice a week. She was predictable, which should have made the job easier. Instead, it made something twist uncomfortably in his chest. He watched her exit the hospital, her shoulders slightly slumped with exhaustion. Even tired, she stopped to help an elderly man who dropped his cane, steadying him with gentle hands and a genuine smile. Marcus had killed 37 people in his career. He'd never had trouble sleeping afterward, but watching Elena Vasquez show kindness to a stranger, he wondered if this job might be different. His phone buzzed. A text from Vincent, *clients. Getting impatient. Handle it soon. Marcus deleted the message and started his engine. He had a job to do, and Marcus Kane always finished his jobs, even if this one might destroy what was left of his soul. The irony was lost on him. His last victim was someone who spent her life putting broken people back together, while he made his living breaking them apart. 2 weeks suddenly felt both like an eternity and no time at all. Marcus had been watching Elena Vasquez for 5 days, and she was nothing like he'd expected. She should have been easy to read, predictable patterns, simple routines, obvious vulnerabilities. Instead, she was a contradiction that made his job infinitely more complicated. Take Tuesday afternoon. Elena left the hospital at 6:15 p.m. instead of her usual 6 o'clock, and Marcus thought he'd found an inconsistency to exploit. But as he followed her through the Upper East Side, he realized she'd stayed late to sit with a patient who'd been crying in the waiting room. Through the hospital window, he'd watched Elena kneel beside the woman, holding her hands while she sobbed. The image had stuck with him for hours. Now it was Friday, and Marcus sat in Café Luna, Helena's regular coffee spot, nursing his third espresso and pretending to read a newspaper. She was running late, which meant something had gone wrong at the hospital. It always did when her schedule shifted. The bell above the door chimed, and Elena rushed in, her cheeks flushed from the October cold. Her dark hair had escaped its ponytail, framing her face in a way that made Marcus's chest tighten unexpectedly. "The usual, Brive.V," called Mario, the barista who clearly adored her. "Make it a double shot today, Mario. It's been one of those weeks." Her voice was warm despite her obvious exhaustion, carrying a slight accent that Marcus found himself wanting to hear more of. She waited by the counter checking her phone, and Marcus made a decision that went against every instinct he'd honed over 15 years. He stood up, letting his newspaper fall to the floor. "Excuse me," he said, bending to retrieve it at the same time Elena leaned down to help. Their hands brushed as they both reached for the paper, and the contact sent an electric shock up Marcus's arm. Elena looked up, and for a moment, they were inches apart. Her eyes were even more striking in person, warm brown with flecks of gold, framed by long lashes. There was intelligence there, and kindness, and something else that made Marcus forget how to breathe. "Sorry," she said softly, straightening up with a smile that could have powered the city. "I'm a compulsive helper." "Occupational hazard." "Nothing wrong with helping," Marcus replied, his voice rougher than he intended. Up close, he could see the small scar on her chin was shaped like a crescent moon. "Thank you, Dr. V. Your coffee," Mario called out, breaking the moment. Elena glanced back at the counter, then at Marcus. "Have a good evening," she said, and there was something in her tone, a slight breathlessness that suggested the moment had affected her too. Marcus watched her leave, his hands still tingling from where they touched hers. This was bad. This was very, very bad. That night, Marcus sat in his sparse apartment in Brooklyn, staring at Elena's file spread across his kitchen table. Her photo looked back at him, but it was nothing compared to seeing her in person. The camera couldn't capture the way she moved with unconscious grace, or the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled, or the fact that she smelled like vanilla and something floral that reminded him of spring. He'd been in the business long enough to know when a job was going sideways. What he didn't understand was why. His phone rang. "Vincent, how's our doctor problem coming along?" Vincent's voice carried an edge that made Marcus tense. "I'm working on it." "Work faster. Our client is asking questions." Apparently, Dr. Vasquez had another session with her special patient yesterday. "We can't afford for this to drag out." Marcus closed his eyes. "I understand, do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're taking your sweet time with what should be a simple job. When have I ever not delivered?" "Never, which is why I'm giving you 3 more days instead of ending this conversation differently. Don't make me regret it, Marcus." The line went dead. Marcus stared at Elena's photo, his jaw clenched. 3 days to kill a woman who spent her life healing people. 3 days to destroy the first person who'd made him feel something other than emptiness in years. He picked up the photo, his thumb tracing the edge where her smile was captured forever. In another life, one where he wasn't a killer, where she wasn't his target, maybe they could have been something. Maybe she could have helped him find whatever part of his soul he'd lost along the way. But this wasn't another life. This was his reality. And in his reality, Marcus Kane was very good at only one thing. The next morning, Marcus positioned himself outside Elena's apartment building. He'd planned to study her security measures, look for weaknesses in her routine. Instead, he found himself watching her water the plants on her fire escape, humming something soft and sweet. She was beautiful in the morning light, natural and unguarded. When she spotted a stray cat on the street below, she disappeared inside and returned with a small bowl of food. Marcus had killed people for money, power, revenge. He'd never killed someone for simply being good. 3 days. Somehow, he had to figure out how to complete this job without destroying himself in the process. Or maybe, he thought as Elena laughed at the cat's antics, it was already too late for that. Marcus had been telling himself he was just doing reconnaissance when he followed Elena into Central Park Saturday evening. She'd broken her usual routine, leaving her apartment with a gym bag instead of heading to her normal weekend coffee shop. Now, watching her demolish a heavy bag with precise, powerful kicks, Marcus realized he'd severely underestimated Dr. Elena Vasquez. She moved like a dancer and struck like a fighter. Her kicks were textbook perfect Muay Thai, if he had to guess. Each impact echoed through the small outdoor gym area, and sweat gleamed on her skin in the setting sun. She traded her usual professional attire for form-fitting leggings and a sports bra that left little to the imagination. Marcus felt his mouth go dry. This wasn't the gentle healer he'd been watching all week. This was a woman who could take care of herself. You planning to stand there all night, or are you going to tell me why you've been following me? Marcus froze. Elena hadn't stopped hitting the bag, hadn't even looked in his direction, but somehow she'd made him. I don't know what you mean, he said, stepping out of the shadows. Elena finally stopped, and wrapping her hands as she turned to face him. Her hair was pulled back in a high ponytail, and her cheeks were flushed from exertion. She looked magnificent and dangerous. And Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Coffee shop guy, she said, recognition flickering in her eyes. Fancy meeting you here. Marcus, he said, offering his real first name before he could stop himself. Marcus Kane. Elena. She tilted her head, studying him with the kind of intensity he imagined she used on her patients. You didn't answer my question. What question was that? Why you've been following me? Her tone was matter of fact, not accusatory. I noticed you Tuesday at the hospital, Wednesday at the grocery store, Thursday outside my apartment building. Either you're a very dedicated stalker, or you're really bad at surveillance. Marcus felt a dangerous smile tug at his lips. She was calling him out, completely unafraid. In his line of work, people either feared him or wanted to use him. Elena was doing neither. Maybe I'm just interested, he said, moving closer. And what, you? The word hung between them, loaded with implications Marcus hadn't intended to voice. Elena's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't back down. That's either very flattering or very concerning, she said. I'm leaning toward concerning, given the stalking. It wasn't stalking, it was reconnaissance, Elena interrupted, and something cold settled in Marcus's stomach. She was too perceptive, too smart. What exactly do you do for a living? Marcus Kane. Before he could answer, 3 men emerged from the trees behind them. Marcus instantly cataloged the threats to have the bulk of steroid users. The third was lean and moved like he knew how to use the knife visible at his belt. Well, a knife wielder said, his voice carrying a thick Brooklyn accent. Dr. Elena Vasquez, you're a hard woman to catch. Alone. Elena tensed but didn't show fear. Do I know you? No, but you know my girl Tina. Been filling her head with ideas about leaving me, haven't you? Marcus saw Elena's jaw clench. Tina Rodriguez, she's my patient. And whatever she's told you is confidential. Confidential, Mayas. That bitch left me because of you. The man started forward, and Marcus moved without thinking. In one fluid motion, he stepped between Elena and the threat, his hand moving to the gun concealed beneath his jacket. That's close enough, Marcus said, his voice dropping to the tone that had made grown men wet themselves. All 3 men stopped, suddenly reassessing the situation. Marcus let them see the predator he really was, the killer who'd ended 37 lives without losing a moment as sleep. This ain't your business, man, the leader said. But his voice had lost its confidence. It is now. Marcus's hand stayed on his weapon. Walk away. For a tense moment, nobody moved. Then the leader jerked his head toward his companions, and they melted back into the trees. Marcus waited until he was sure they were gone before turning back to Elena. She was staring at him with a mixture of gratitude and suspicion. Thank you, she said quietly. But that doesn't answer my question about what you do for a living. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her. She was brave, intelligent, and strong enough to defend herself in most situations. She saved broken people for a living. And she just stood her ground against 3 men who wanted to hurt her. She was everything he wasn't. Everything he could never be. Security consulting, he lied smoothly. I help people. Might be in danger. Elena studied his face, and Marcus had the uncomfortable feeling she could see right through him. Is that why you've been watching me? You think I'm in danger? I know you are. That, at least, was the truth. Tina's boyfriend won't give up that easily. And there might be others. Marcus made another decision that went against his training. You help victims of violent crimes. Some people might not want those victims talking. Elena's face went pale. You're talking about witness intimidation. I'm talking about you being careful, varying your routines, maybe staying somewhere else for a while. I can't do that. My patients need me. Your patients need you alive. Elena was quiet for a long moment, wrapping her hands around her arms despite the warm evening. And you want to help me? A stranger you met in a coffee shop, yes. The word came out rougher than Marcus intended. Why? Because you're the first good thing I've seen in 15 years. Because looking at you makes me remember what it felt like to be human. Because I'm supposed to kill you in 2 days, and I don't think I can. Because everyone deserves to be safe, he said instead. Elena stepped closer. Close enough that Marcus could smell her perfume mixing with the scent of her workout. I don't believe you. There's something you're not telling me. She was right, of course. But Marcus couldn't tell her the truth that he was the most dangerous thing in her life, that he'd been sent to kill her, that every moment he spent with her was borrowed time. Instead, he reached out and touched her cheek, his thumb tracing the small scar on her chin. Some secrets are meant to protect people. Elena's breath hitched, and for a moment, Marcus thought she might lean into his touch. Then she stepped back. I should go, she said. I'll walk you home. That's not necessary. It is to me. Elena looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but Marcus, whatever you're not telling me, I hope you'll trust me with it eventually. As they walked through the darkening park, Marcus wondered if he was protecting Elena or damning them both. Either way, he was running out of time to figure out which. In 2 days, Vincent would expect Elena Vasquez to be dead. Instead, Marcus was falling for her. This job was definitely going sideways. Elena's apartment was nothing like Marcus had imagined. He'd expected clinical perfection, maybe some psychology textbooks and motivational posters. Instead, her space was warm chaos, plants everywhere, books stacked on every surface, abstract paintings that looked like controlled explosions of color on the walls. Coffee or something stronger? Elena asked, shrugging out of her jacket. She'd insisted he come up after walking her home, claiming she owed him a drink for the rescue in the park. Stronger, Marcus said, still scanning the room with professional eyes. The windows faced the fire escape vulnerability. The front door had 2 locks but no deadbolt, another weakness. The kitchen knives were sharp but poorly placed for quick access. He was cataloging ways someone could kill her while she made him a drink. The irony made his chest tight. You're doing it again, Elena said, returning with 2 glasses of wine. Doing what? Analyzing. Cataloging. Looking for exits and threats. She settled onto the couch beside him, close enough that her knee brushed his thigh. It's what people in dangerous professions do. Marcus accepted the wine but didn't drink. Maybe I'm just paranoid. Or maybe you're exactly what I thought you were. Elena tucked her legs under herself, studying his face. Military. Law enforcement. Something that requires you to always be ready for violence. Something like that. Marcus took a sip of wine to avoid saying more. It was good, expensive. Elena had taste. Afghanistan, Iraq. Marcus almost smiled. It was a reasonable assumption, and it gave him a cover story that wasn't entirely false. Some of that PTSD, the question hit closer to home than Marcus expected. He'd never been diagnosed, but 15 years of killing people had to leave marks on the soul. Maybe. Elena leaned forward, her expression softening. Marcus, I work with trauma survivors every day. I know the signs, the hypervigilance, the emotional distance, the way you position yourself to see all the exits. Elena, You don't have to carry it alone. Her hand covered his, warm and steady. Whatever happened over there, whatever you've seen or done, there's help available. Marcus stared down at their joined hands. Elena's fingers were long and graceful, with small calluses from her martial arts training. She wore a simple silver ring on her middle finger, and her nails were painted a deep red that made him think of blood. She was trying to save him. The woman he was supposed to kill was trying to heal him. It's not that simple, he said roughly. It never is. But healing is possible, Marcus. Even for people who think they're too broken. Marcus looked up to find Elena watching him with those perceptive brown eyes, and something cracked inside his chest. When was the last time someone had looked at him like he was worth saving? What if someone was beyond help? He asked. What if they'd done things that couldn't be forgiven? I don't believe anyone is beyond help, Elena said firmly. Everyone deserves a chance at redemption. Even killers. The word slipped out before Marcus could stop it. Elena's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't pull her hand away. Especially killers, she said quietly. Some of my patients have taken lives. Self-defense, combat situations, even premeditated murder in extreme circumstances. They all deserve the chance to heal. Marcus felt something dangerous building in his chest, hope, maybe, or longing. Either way, it was going to get them both killed. Elena, he said, his voice hoarse. You shouldn't trust me. Why not? Because I'm here to kill you. Because every moment I spend with you makes it harder to do my job. Because I'm falling for you, and that makes me the most dangerous man you'll ever meet. Instead of answering, Marcus reached out and traced the curve of her cheek. Elena's breath hitched, but she didn't pull away. You're beautiful, he said, meaning it more than he'd meant anything in years. Marcus. And brave, and good. Too good for someone like me. Elena's hand came up to cover his, pressing his palm against her face. Let me decide that. The space between them seemed to shrink until Marcus could count the gold flecks in her eyes. She smelled like vanilla and wine and something uniquely her, and Marcus wanted to drown in it. This is a bad idea, he murmured, even as he leaned closer. Probably, Elena agreed, but her lips were already parting. Marcus kissed her like a drowning man gasping for air. Elena responded with equal desperation, her hands fisting in his shirt as she pulled him closer. She tasted like wine and possibility and everything Marcus had been denying himself for 15 years. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Stay, Elena whispered against his lips. Tonight. Stay with me. Marcus closed his eyes. In 18 hours, Vincent would expect confirmation that Elena Vasquez was dead. Every minute he spent with her was borrowed time that would have to be paid back eventually. But looking at Elena, her lips swollen from his kisses, her eyes bright with desire, Marcus made another decision that went against every survival instinct he'd developed. Yes, Elena smiled and took his hand, leading him toward her bedroom. Marcus followed, pushing down the voice that reminded him this couldn't end well for either of them. The bedroom was as chaotic as the rest of the apartment, fairy lights strung across the headboard, books on the nightstand, clothes draped over a chair. It should have felt foreign to Marcus, but instead it felt like coming home. Elena turned in his arms, her hands sliding up his chest to frame his face. Are you sure about this? Marcus answered by kissing her again, harder this time, pouring all his frustrated longing into the contact. Elena melted against him, her body fitting perfectly against his as if they were made for this, when Marcus's hands found the hem of her shirt. Elena broke the kiss long enough to pull it over her head, the sight of her beautiful and brave. And entirely his for this stolen moment made Marcus's chest ache. Elena, he said. Her name a prayer and a confession. I know, she whispered, understanding somehow that this was bigger than either of them had planned. I know. Hours later, Marcus lay awake watching Elena sleep in his arms. She was beautiful in the moonlight streaming through her window. Peaceful in a way that made Marcus's throat tight. In 12 hours. Vincent would call expecting good news. In 12 hours, Marcus would have to choose between the life he'd built and the woman who made him want to tear it all down. Elena stirred in her sleep, pressing closer to his warmth. And Marcus made his choice. He was going to save her. Even if it killed him, even if it killed them both. Marcus woke to the sound of Elena humming in the kitchen and the smell of coffee brewing. For a moment, lying in her bed with sunlight filtering through gauzy curtains, he let himself pretend this was real. That he was the kind of man who could wake up every morning to Elena's voice, to her warmth beside him. Then his phone buzzed on the nightstand, and reality crashed back. Vincent's name flashed on the screen. Marcus grabbed the phone and slipped out of bed, pulling on his jeans as he answered, "Yeah." "Tell me you have good news." Vincent's voice was sharp with impatience. Marcus moved to the window, keeping his voice low. "I need more time. Marcus, what the hell is wrong with you? This should have been done yesterday." "There are complications." "What kind of complications?" Marcus closed his eyes, listening to Elena's soft humming from the kitchen. She was making breakfast, probably enough for both of them. Because that's the kind of person she was. "The target is more protected than we thought," Marcus lied. "Security detail, or regular schedule changes. It's not as simple as bullshit." Vincent's voice turned cold. "I've had people watching you, Marcus. I know exactly where you've been for the past week." Marcus's blood turned to ice. "What are you talking about?" "Café Luna. Central Park, her apartment building. Last night you went inside and never came out. So I'll ask you again, what kind of complications?" The phone seemed to burn in Marcus's hand. If Vincent had him under surveillance, Elena was in immediate danger, worse than he'd thought. "Vincent, you're compromised," Vincent continued. "I should have seen it coming. 15 years in this business. And you finally found someone who makes you think with your dick instead of your brain. It's not like that, isn't it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're fucking our target instead of killing her." Rage flashed through Marcus, hot and protective. "Don't talk about her like what? Like the mark she is." Vincent's laugh was ugly. "Jesus Christ. Marcus, do you have any idea what you've done?" "Marcus," Elena's voice came from the bedroom doorway. "Is everything okay?" Marcus spun around to find Elena standing there in his shirt from last night, holding 2 cups of coffee. Her hair was messy from sleep. And she looked beautiful and trusting and completely unaware that her world was about to explode. "Who was that?" Vincent's voice carried clearly through the phone. Elena's eyes widened. Marcus saw the moment she connected the dots: his tense posture, the way he'd answered the phone like a man receiving orders, the sudden shift from tender to dangerous. "Marcus," she said quietly, her voice changing. "Who's on the phone?" "Hang up," Marcus said into the phone, his eyes locked on Elena's face. "Oh, this is Rich," Vincent continued, ignoring him. "She's right there, isn't she? Does she know what you do for a living, Marcus? Does she know why you're really there?" "Hang up the fucking phone." But it was too late. Elena had heard enough. The coffee cup slipped from her hands, shattering on the hardwood floor. Hot liquid splashed across her bare legs, but she didn't seem to notice. "What does he mean?" she whispered. "Why are you really here?" Marcus ended the call, but the damage was done. Elena was staring at him like she was seeing him for the first time, and she was. "Elena, let me explain." "Explain what?" Her voice was getting stronger, more controlled. It was the voice she probably used with dangerous patience. "Explain why someone is asking if I know what you do for a living. Explain why they want to know if I know why you're here." Marcus took a step toward her, and Elena immediately moved back. The movement hit him like a physical blow. "I never wanted you to get hurt," he said. "That's not an answer." Elena's eyes were bright with tears, but her chin was raised defiantly. "What do you do, Marcus? And don't lie to me again." Marcus looked at her, really looked at her. She was brave and beautiful and everything good in the world, and he was about to destroy her. "I kill people," he said quietly. "For money. I'm an assassin." Elena went very still. "And me? You were supposed to be my last job." The words hung in the air between them like a gunshot. Elena's face went white, then red, then white again. You were hired to kill me, yes. And last night Elena's voice cracked. Everything we did, everything I felt, you were planning to murder me. No. Marcus stepped forward again, desperate to make her understand. Elena, no. Last night changed everything. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to protect you. Protect me. Elena's laugh was sharp and broken. You're the thing I need protection from, not anymore. Elena, I get out. Her voice was deadly quiet. Elena, please. Let me explain. Get out. She screamed the words. And Marcus saw her hands shaking with rage and betrayal and fear. Marcus wanted to stay, wanted to hold her until the shaking stopped, wanted to explain that somewhere between watching her feed stray cats and feeling her hands gentle on his face, he'd stopped being a killer and started being a man. Instead, he grabbed his shirt and jacket, moving toward the door. Elena followed at a distance, as if he were a wild animal that might attack at any moment. At the door, Marcus turned back. Elena was hugging herself, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. I won't let them hurt you, he said. Whatever happens. I won't let Vincent or anyone else touch you. How do I know that's not another lie? Marcus met her eyes. Because if I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. The words were meant to be reassuring. Instead, they made Elena flinch like he'd slapped her. Marcus left before he could make things worse, but as he walked down the hallway, he heard Elena slide the deadbolt home and the chain lock after it. His phone rang again. Vincent. Now that she knows, Vincent said without preamble, we have a bigger problem. She's a liability. And you're compromised. What are you saying? I'm saying the client has authorized cleanup. Both targets. Marcus stopped walking. Both targets. You and the good doctor. Consider your retirement permanent, Marcus. You've got 24 hours to get your affairs in order. The line went dead. Marcus stared at the phone, then at Elena's door. She was in there crying because the man she'd started to care about had lied to her about everything, including planning to kill her. And now, because of his weakness, she was going to die anyway. Unless Marcus did what he trained his whole life to do, kill everyone who threatened her. Starting with Vincent Torino. Marcus had been watching Elena's building for 3 hours when Vincent's men arrived. 2 black SUVs, professional grade, parked strategically to cover both exits. Marcus counted 6 men total, more than necessary for a simple cleanup. Which meant Vincent was taking Marcus seriously as a threat. Smart of him. From his position on the roof across the street, Marcus watched through his scope as the teams positioned themselves. Elena was inside her apartment, probably still reeling from this morning's revelation. She had no idea death was climbing the stairs toward her. Marcus's phone buzzed. It texted, last chance to walk away. Marcus, don't make this harder than it has to be. He deleted the message without responding. Vincent had made a critical error. He'd threatened the one person Marcus would kill for, would die for. The first team reached Elena's floor. Marcus spoke into his Bluetooth headset, calling a number he'd hoped never to use. Elena. Listen to me. Marcus. Her voice was shaky, confused. How did you get this number? That doesn't matter. Right now, you need to get to your bathroom and lock the door. There are men in your building coming to kill you. What? Marcus, I don't understand. Elena, please. Trust me one more time. Get to the bathroom now. Through his scope, Marcus saw the first team at Elena's door. They weren't bothering with stealth. One of them produced a small explosive charge. Elena, move now. The explosion echoed across the street. Marcus was already moving, abandoning his sniper position for close quarters. Elena would need more than long-distance protection. He took the fire escape 3 steps at a time, listening to Elena's ragged breathing through the earpiece. I'm in the bathroom, she whispered. Marcus, what's happening? The people who hired me decided we're both liabilities. I'm coming to get you. Marcus, I can't. I don't trust. You don't have to trust me, Marcus said, kicking in a 3rd-floor window. But right now, I'm the only thing standing between you and a very bad death. Marcus moved through the building, like the predator he'd trained to be. The sound of splintering wood came from Elena's floor. They were inside her apartment. "They're in my apartment." Elena's voice was tight with fear. "Stay where you are. I'm almost there." Marcus reached Elena's floor as the first gunman rounded the corner toward the bathroom. The man saw Marcus and tried to raise his weapon. Marcus's knife took him in the throat before he could make a sound. "One down," Marcus whispered into the headset, moving deeper into the apartment. The second man was searching Elena's bedroom. Marcus came up behind him, silent as death itself, covering the man's mouth as the knife found his heart. "Get down, Marcus." Elena's voice was smaller now. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "How many more do you hear out there?" "I think 2. Maybe 3. The remaining men had heard something. Marcus could hear them calling to their missing teammates. He needed to end this quickly before they called for backup. Marcus moved into the living room as the men came through the front door. They saw the bodies immediately, weapons rising. Marcus was faster. The first man took 2 shots center mass before he could fire. The second got off a wild shot that shattered Elena's kitchen window before Marcus's bullet found his skull. Silence fell over the apartment like a shroud. "Elena," Marcus said softly, "it's over. You can come out." The bathroom door opened slowly. Elena emerged, pale but steady, and stopped dead when she saw the carnage in her living room. "Oh God," she whispered. "Don't look," Marcus said, moving toward her. "Elena, don't." But Elena was a trauma counselor. She'd seen violence before, probably worse than this. Instead of breaking down, she straightened her shoulders and met Marcus's eyes. "Is this what you do?" she asked quietly. "Is this who you are?" "Yes." There was no point in lying anymore. "This is who I am." Elena nodded slowly, taking in the scene for dead men. Marcus still holding his gun, blood on the walls and floor. "You did this to protect me." "Yes." "You killed them so I could live." "Yes." Elena moved closer, stepping carefully around the blood. When she reached Marcus, she took the gun from his hands and set it on the counter. Then she touched his face, her fingers tracing a cut he hadn't realized he'd gotten. "You're hurt. Elena, you came back for me. Even after I threw you out, even after I said I couldn't trust you." Marcus closed his eyes at her touch. "I couldn't let them hurt you. Because you care about me. Because I love you." The words came out rough, desperate. "I love you, Elena. And I know that doesn't change what I am or what I've done, but..." Elena silenced him with a kiss. It was different from last night, harder, more desperate, tasting of tears and fear and relief. When they broke apart, Elena was crying. "I love you too," she whispered. "And I hate myself for it." "Elena, you were sent to kill me, Marcus. How do I get past that? How do I trust someone who was paid to end my life?" "I don't know," Marcus said honestly. "But I know I'd rather die than let anyone hurt you. I know that everything good in me belongs to you now." Elena searched his face, and Marcus let her see everything: the killer, the man, the love, the damage, all of it. "We have to leave," she said finally. "Vincent won't stop, will he?" "No. He'll send more men. We have maybe an hour." Before Marcus's phone rang. "Vincent." "Answer it," Elena said. "Put it on speaker." Marcus hesitated, then accepted the call. "You always were too good for your own good." Vincent's voice filled the apartment. "How many men did I lose?" "All of them." "Impressive. But you know this doesn't end here, Marcus. I've got more men. More resources. The client wants this finished. Then the client can try to finish it himself." Marcus said. "I'm out, Vincent. Permanently. No one gets out. Marcus. You know that. Everyone gets out eventually," Marcus replied. "Some of us just do it horizontal." Elena moved closer, her hand finding Marcus's arm. "The good doctor is listening," Vincent said. "Dr. Vasquez, I hope you understand what you've cost him. Marcus had a nice retirement planned. Now he'll be running for the rest of his life. However long that is, he won't be running alone," Elena said, her voice steady. Vincent laughed. "A killer and his therapist. How romantic." "Don't worry, sweetheart, it won't be a long romance." The line went dead. Elena looked at Marcus, her face pale but determined. "So," she said, "where do we run?" Marcus stared at her. You said everything good in you belongs to me now." "Well, everything brave in me belongs to you. We're in this together." Marcus pulled her into his arms, holding her tight against the chaos they'd created. Elena clung to him just as desperately, and Marcus realized that somehow, in trying to save her, she'd saved him too. They had an hour to disappear forever. It would have to be enough. 6 months later, the sunset from their cabin in the Colorado mountains painted the sky in shades of fire and gold. Marcus watched Elena tend to her garden, her movements graceful and sure as she harvested tomatoes and peppers they'd grown together. She'd adapted to their new life with surprising ease. Dr. Elena Vasquez no longer existed there. No identities listed her as Elena Kane, his wife, a freelance counselor who specialized in online therapy sessions. Marcus had become Michael Kane, a security consultant who worked exclusively remote contracts. It wasn't entirely a lie. "Any word from your contact at the FBI?" Elena asked without looking up from the tomato plants. Marcus checked his encrypted phone. "Vincent's trial starts next week. They're confident the testimony from his surviving associates will put him away for life." Elena nodded, but Marcus caught the tension in her shoulders. Vincent's arrest 3 months ago should have been the end of their running, but they'd both learned to be cautious about hope. "Marcus." Elena straightened, wiping dirt from her hands. "There's something I need to tell you." The tone in her voice made Marcus instantly alert. "What is it?" Elena walked over to where he sat on the porch steps, settling beside him. She was nervous. Marcus could see it in the way she fidgeted with her wedding ring. The simple gold band was fake, part of their cover, but Marcus had started thinking of it as real. "I got a call today," Elena said, "from Detective Morrison in New York." Marcus tensed. Detective Morrison had been Elena's contact during the investigation into Vincent's operation. Elena's testimony had been crucial in building the case against him. "They found something in Vincent's files," Elena continued. "Information about other targets, people like new witnesses, victims' advocates, prosecutors." Vincent wasn't just silencing individual threats. He was systematically eliminating anyone who might testify against organized crime operations. Marcus felt cold despite the warm evening air. "How many?" 17 confirmed kills over the past 5 years, maybe more. Elena turned to face him. "Marcus, you weren't just a hitman. You were part of something bigger. Something Vincent used to control the justice system itself." Marcus closed his eyes. He'd suspected as much. The targets Vincent had given him over the years had often been prosecutors, witnesses, advocates, people whose deaths seemed random but served a larger purpose. "I helped him," Marcus said quietly. "All those people. You didn't know." "I should have known. I should have questioned Marcus." Elena took his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. "You stopped when it mattered most, when you had the choice between being his weapon and being a good man. You chose to be good." "I chose you." "Same thing," Elena said softly. "You chose love over violence. You chose protecting someone over hurting them. That matters." Marcus leaned into her touch, still amazed that she could look at him knowing everything he'd done and see something worth saving. "Detective Morrison wants to know if you'd be willing to testify," Elena said. "About Vincent, about the other targets, about how the operation worked." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, watching the last light fade from the sky. "What do you think?" "I think 17 families deserve justice. I think Vincent's other victims deserve to know their loved ones didn't die randomly. And I think," Elena hesitated, "I think you deserve the chance to help and do some of the damage. It would mean going back, being Marcus Kane again instead of Michael. For a while, yes. It would be dangerous. Vincent still has allies, people who'd want us dead for testifying. I know." Marcus studied Elena's face. She was calm, determined, and completely serious about willingly walking back into danger. "You've been thinking about this for a while," he said. "Since the day we left New York." Elena smiled ruefully. "I became a trauma counselor because I wanted to help people heal. These past 6 months with you have been wonderful, but I miss that I miss feeling like I'm making a difference. You made a difference. You saved me. And now, maybe we can save others. Together. Marcus pulled Elena closer, breathing in the scent of her shampoo and the mountain air. 6 months ago, he'd been a killer with no future beyond the next job. Now he was a man with a woman he loved, a chance at redemption, and a choice to make. If we do this, he said, there's no going back to this life. Even after the trial, we'll never be completely safe. I know. Vincent might get to us before we can testify. Possible. We could lose everything. Elena pulled back to look at him, her eyes bright with determination and love. Marcus, we could save 17 families from never knowing the truth. We could prevent Vincent from hurting anyone else. We could take one of the worst things you've ever been part of and turn it into something good. Marcus kissed her then, pouring all his love and fear and hope into the contact. When they broke apart, his decision was made. Okay, he said. Let's go save the world. Elena's smile was brilliant. I love you, Marcus Kane. I love you too, Dr. Elena Vasquez. They sat together as darkness fell over the mountains, holding each other and planning their return to a world that would never be completely safe for them. But Marcus had learned something in these past months with Elena. Safety wasn't the same as being alive. For 15 years, he'd been a ghost haunting other people's lives. Now, with Elena's hand in his and a chance to do something right, Marcus Kane was finally ready to live. Even if it killed him. But especially because it might save them both. 3 weeks later, Marcus sat in a federal courthouse in Manhattan, Elena beside him. As he raised his right hand and swore to tell the truth about Vincent Torino and the network of violence that had defined his life. It was, he realized, the first completely honest thing he'd said in a courtroom. It was also his first step toward becoming the man Elena saw when she looked at him. The man he was finally ready to be. The end.